I never thought I'd be back in Texas. Not after everything that happened, not after the trial, the humiliation, the slow dismantling of everything I'd built over 25 years. But here I was, sitting in a sterile waiting room in Dallas, holding a clipboard that might just change everything, or end it all. I wasn't sure which anymore. Let me back up. My name is Richard Harlan, and 3 months ago, I had $19 million. A logistics company with offices in 4 states, 2 kids I loved more than life itself, and a wife whose family made sure I'd lose it all. The fall didn't happen overnight. It never does it? It started small. Arguments about business decisions, about how I was raising the kids, about my common background. Emily's father, Douglas Whitmore, never thought I was good enough for his daughter. Old money oil baron, the kind of man who wore his privilege like armor and wielded it like a weapon. "You know what your problem is, Richard?" he told me once at a family dinner, swirling his bourbon. "You think hard work matters. It doesn't. Lineage matters. Power matters. You're playing a game you don't even understand." I should have seen the warning signs then. Should have protected myself. But I loved Emily. God help me, I really did. And I believed in something foolish. That love could bridge the gap between her world and mine. I was wrong. The divorce wasn't just a divorce. It was a systematic destruction campaign. Douglas had connections everywhere. Judges, lawyers, media outlets. Suddenly, my business practices were under investigation. Suddenly, there were allegations of mismanagement, of misconduct. Before we get into it, don't forget to like and subscribe. And hit hype to boost this episode. Drop a comment below with your city or country. I'm always curious where viewers are joining from. None of it was true, but truth doesn't matter when you're fighting people with unlimited resources and no conscience. I still remember the day in court when custody was decided. I'd already lost the business by then, forced to sell it for pennies on the dollar to pay legal fees. The courtroom smelled like old wood and broken dreams. Every creak of the bench, every rustle of paper felt like a nail in my coffin. I was sitting there, watching my lawyers fumble through arguments they'd prepared half-heartedly when Douglas leaned over to me. He was sitting in the gallery, technically just an observer, but everyone in that room knew who held the real power. The judge, an old friend of the Whitmore family, kept glancing his way as if seeking approval. Douglas didn't whisper. He wanted me to hear every word clearly, wanted me to feel every syllable like a blade. "You're a genetic dead end, Richard," he said, his voice cold as January ice, smooth as aged bourbon. "Your line ends here. My grandchildren will barely remember your name. They'll grow up knowing you as a cautionary tale, the man who married above his station and couldn't handle it. Just disappear. Make it easier on everyone, especially them." I wanted to lunge at him, wanted to grab him by his $1,000 tie and show him exactly what this genetic dead end could do. But I sat there, frozen, as his words burrowed into my brain like parasites. Genetic dead end. As if I were some evolutionary mistake that needed to be eliminated from the family tree. Emily didn't even look at me. My wife, ex-wife, I had to keep reminding myself, sat there, stone-faced, her Cartier bracelet catching the courtroom lights. The same bracelet I'd bought her for our 10th anniversary. The same woman who'd once told me I was the best thing that ever happened to her. Now she sat beside her father's lawyers like I was a stranger. Worse, like I was a threat. The judge cleared his throat. Having reviewed the evidence and testimony, this court awards full physical custody to Mrs. Emily Whitmore Harlan, with supervised visitation rights to Mr. Richard Harlan, pending completion of anger management counseling and psychological evaluation. Anger management, psychological evaluation. The implications were clear. I was being painted as unstable, potentially dangerous, all based on testimony from family friends who'd never even met me before the divorce proceedings. Supervised visitation only. The implication being that I was somehow dangerous to my own children. To Jake, who I'd taught to ride a bike on a sunny Saturday morning when he was 6, running beside him until my lungs burned. To Sophie, who still called me every night to say goodnight, at least until the lawyers made that stop too. She'd ask me to tell her stories about brave princesses who saved themselves, about adventures in faraway lands. Now someone else would tell her bedtime stories, if anyone did at all. I looked at Jake in the gallery. He was trying not to cry, his jaw clenched in that way that reminded me so much of myself. Sophie was too young to really understand, but she knew something bad was happening. She kept reaching for Emily, who patted her head absently, focused on the judge's words. "Mr. Harlan, do you understand the terms of this custody arrangement?" the judge asked. I stood on shaking legs. "Yes, Your Honor." "Do you have anything to say?" I looked at Douglas, at Emily, at the lawyers who'd destroyed me with paper cuts and procedural motions. I looked at my children, who I'd loved with every fiber of my being. Just that I love my kids, I said quietly, and I'll never stop fighting for them. Douglas smiled. Actually smiled, as if I'd just told a joke. The judge's gavel came down. Bang. My old life was over. I walked out of that courtroom with nothing. Not metaphorically nothing. Literally nothing. I had my mother's worn leather jacket, the one she'd given me the Christmas before she died. Good leather lasts forever, she'd said, unlike most things in life. She'd been more right than she knew. A duffel bag with 3 changes of clothes, all that remained of a closet that once held custom suits and Italian shoes, and about $800 in a checking account that used to hold millions. The media was waiting outside, of course. Douglas had made sure of that, too. He'd cultivated relationships with journalists for decades, knew exactly which ones would run with the narrative he'd crafted. I was the villain in this story, the failed entrepreneur who'd married for money and couldn't handle being cut off from the family wealth. Never mind that I'd built my own company before I even met Emily. Mr. Harlan, is it true you misappropriated funds from your company? The question came from a reporter I recognized from the Houston Chronicle. She'd written 3 hit pieces on me in the past month, each one carefully sourced from anonymous family friends who were clearly Douglas's people. Mr. Harlan, do you have any comment on the allegations of financial misconduct? Another voice from a TV news crew. The camera light was blinding. I could feel sweat running down my back despite the cool November air. Mr. Harlan, why shouldn't you see your children? What did you do? That last question stopped me cold. The implication, the accusation, that I'd done something to my own kids, something that would justify keeping me away from them. I wanted to scream, wanted to grab that microphone and tell them everything, about Douglas's manipulation, about the fabricated evidence, about the judge who'd gone to law school with Douglas's brother. But I'd learned by then that every word would be twisted, every statement used against me. My lawyers had drilled it into me. Don't talk to the press. Don't react. Don't give them anything they can use. So I pushed through them without speaking, my head down, my mother's jacket pulled tight against the November chill. What was there to say? I'd learned by then that every word would be twisted, every statement turned into another weapon to use against me. Behind me, I heard Emily's lawyer giving a statement, something about protecting the children and appropriate boundaries. I didn't stop to listen. Couldn't bear to hear them paint me as a monster when all I'd ever done was love my family. I reached my car, a 5-year-old Honda that used to be my running errands vehicle. My Mercedes, my Lexus, even Emily's Range Rover that I'd bought her for her birthday, all claimed as marital assets, all gone. I sat in the driver's seat and gripped the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. Then I did something I hadn't done since my mother's funeral. I cried. Great, heaving sobs that shook my whole body. Cried for my children, for my lost life, for the man I used to be who'd believed that working hard and being good was enough. When I was done, when I had no tears left, I started the engine and drove north. Away from Houston, away from the courthouse, away from everything I'd known for the past 15 years. I left Houston that day and drove north. I didn't have a plan, didn't have a destination. I just drove until my car ran out of gas in Amarillo on a stretch of Route 66 that looked like it hadn't changed since the 1950s. The car sputtered and died next to a sun-faded sign advertising Genuine Indian Crafts next exit. I coasted into a gas station, my hands shaking on the wheel. I checked my account on my phone. $843. The tank would cost $40 to fill. I sat there for 20 minutes doing the math. Rent deposit, food, gas to wherever I was going next. If I filled the tank, I'd have maybe 2 weeks before I was completely broke. In the end, I realized I didn't have enough money to fill the tank. Not if I wanted to eat, not if I wanted a place to sleep that night. I sold the car the next day for $1,500. It was worth $15,000, but I needed cash immediately, and the buyer knew desperation when he saw it. He was a mechanic with oil-stained hands and kind eyes. "You in some kind of trouble?" he asked as he counted out the bills. "You could say that." "This is a good car, worth more than I'm paying you." "I know." He nodded slowly, then added an extra 100 to the stack. "Good luck, son. Whatever you're running from, I hope you find something better." I almost cried again. That simple act of kindness from a stranger undid me more than all of Douglas's cruelty. I found a room above a gas station on Route 66 in a part of Amarillo that time had forgotten. The landlord, a weathered man named Jack, who'd probably seen 1,000 stories like mine, didn't ask questions. His face was deeply lined, like a map of hard years, and he wore a flannel shirt that had seen better decades. "$200 a month," he said, looking me over with eyes that had probably assessed countless desperate people. Cash only. First and last month up front. You keep it clean, don't cause trouble, we won't have problems. Drugs, violence, or excessive noise, you're out same day. Understand? I counted out $400 from my dwindling cash. Understood. He handed me a key attached to a plastic tag with 12 written in faded marker. Bathrooms down the hall, shared with rooms 10 and 11. Usually empty, just you and old Mike in 10. He's quiet, keeps to himself. Laundry machines in the basement, $2 a load. Try not to use them between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. The room was on the second floor, accessible by an exterior metal staircase that rattled with every step. Room 12 was at the end of a dimly lit hallway that smelled of old cigarettes and industrial cleaner. It was one room, maybe 12 feet by 15. A hot plate sat on a particle board counter that served as the kitchen. A twin bed with a sagging mattress hugged one wall. A bathroom down the hall, shared with neighbors I'd never meet. And a window that looked out at the highway, at the endless stream of cars and trucks heading somewhere anywhere else. The first night I lay on that bed. The mattress was lumpy and smelled faintly of mildew, and stared at the water-stained ceiling. There was a crack that ran from the light fixture to the corner, like a river on a map. I traced it with my eyes, wondering how long it had been there, if it was getting worse, if one day the whole ceiling would come down. At night, I'd watch the headlights pass on Route 66 and wonder where all those people were going. If any of them had fallen as far as I had, if any of them knew what it felt like to have everything and then nothing, all in the space of 6 months. I'd built a multi-million-dollar company from scratch, had employed 300 people across 4 states, had given to charity, sponsored Little League teams, donated to schools. I'd thought I was living the American dream. Now I was lying on a stained mattress in a $200 a month room, and my greatest accomplishment was making it through another day. I got a job working night shifts at a distribution warehouse on the outskirts of Amarillo. The manager, a tired-looking woman named Rosa, barely glanced at my resume. "You got a strong back?" she asked. "Strong enough." "Show up on time, work hard, don't complain. $10 an hour, paid weekly. You want it?" $10 an hour. I'd once paid people $50 an hour and thought I was being generous. Now I was grateful for a fifth of that. I want it. Shift starts at 11 p.m., ends at 7 a.m. You load trucks, you unload trucks, you move boxes from point A to point B. It's not rocket science, but it's honest work. Be here tonight at 10:45. The work was backbreaking. My first night, I lifted and moved boxes for 8 hours straight. By morning, my back screamed with every movement. My hands, which used to sign contracts and shake hands with executives, which had worn a Rolex and held champagne flutes at charity galas, were now covered in calluses and cuts from cardboard edges and packing tape. I'd gone to college, had an MBA from a decent business school, had built a company that grossed $40 million a year. Now I was loading boxes of discount furniture onto trucks, working alongside guys who'd never finished high school and probably made more than I did because they'd been there longer. But I needed to eat, needed to pay rent, needed to survive, even though some mornings I wasn't entirely sure why. What was the point of surviving if I couldn't see my kids, if everything I'd worked for was gone, if I was just marking time until I died? But then I'd think of Jake and Sophie, and I'd force myself to get up, to go to work, to keep pushing through the pain. The money wasn't enough. It was never enough. After rent, utilities, food, and the prepaid phone I needed to stay in contact with my lawyer, I had maybe $50 left each month, sometimes less. I started skipping meals, lost 20 pounds in the first month. Couldn't afford to see a doctor when I caught a cold that turned into bronchitis. Just worked through it, coughing into my elbow, taking off-brand cold medicine from the dollar store. So I started looking for other options. That's when I saw the Plasma Donation Center. It was in a strip mall between a payday loan place and a liquor store, establishments that thrived on human desperation. The windows were covered with bright signs. Earn up to $50 per donation. Help save lives. New donors earn extra. I laughed when I first saw it. A bitter, hollow sound that scared even me. This is what it had come to. Selling my blood to buy groceries. I stood outside that plasma center for 10 minutes, watching people go in and out. Some looked like college kids earning beer money. Others looked like me, desperate, hollow-eyed, selling pieces of themselves to survive. But pride is a luxury, and I couldn't afford luxuries anymore. The first time I donated, the process was clinical and dehumanizing. They checked my vitals, asked invasive health questions, tested my blood for diseases. Then they stuck a needle in my arm, and I lay there for 90 minutes watching my blood flow through tubes, get separated in a machine, and flow back into me minus the plasma. I lay there watching my blood flow through the tubes, out of my body, through the machine, back in. The plasma was yellowish, viscous. That's what they were taking. The liquid part of my blood, full of proteins and antibodies. Worth about $50 to me, worth hundreds on the medical market. I thought about Douglas Whitmore. Wondered if he'd ever had to sell a part of himself just to survive. Wondered if he ever thought about what he'd done to me. Wondered if he slept well at night, or if ghosts of the people he'd destroyed ever visited his dreams. Probably not. Men like that don't waste time on the people they've destroyed. They move on to the next acquisition, the next deal, the next person to break. "You okay, hun?" The phlebotomist was a young woman with kind eyes and too many piercings. Her name tag said Crystal. "Fine," I lied. "First time?" "Yeah. It gets easier. The first donation always feels weird. Just relax. Watch something on your phone if you want." But I didn't have data on my phone. Couldn't afford it. So I just lay there, staring at the ceiling, feeling my blood leave and return, leave and return. When it was done, Crystal unhooked me and pressed gauze to my arm. "Keep pressure on that for 5 minutes. You might feel lightheaded when you stand up. Totally normal. Here's your card for next time, and here's $50. She handed me a debit card loaded with $50. Real money. Money that would keep me alive for another few days. "Thanks," I said. "No problem. See you next week?" "Yeah. See you next week." I became a regular at the plasma center. Twice a week, like clockwork. The maximum they'd let you donate. Every Tuesday and Friday morning, right after my shift at the warehouse. I'd be exhausted, my body aching, but I'd drag myself to that strip mall and lie down on that chair. The nurses knew my name. Crystal would chat with me about her classes. She was studying to be a nurse. Jose, another phlebotomist, would talk about his kids. There was a strange camaraderie among us donors, all of us there because we needed money more than we needed the fluid in our veins. We'd nod to each other in the waiting room, a silent acknowledgement of shared circumstances. Nobody talked about why they were there. You didn't ask. Some things were better left unsaid. One day in October, I saw a new flyer on the bulletin board. Bone marrow donors needed. Compensation up to $200. Help save a life. Register today. $200. That was almost a week's rent. And all I had to do was register, maybe get tested. Most people never matched anyway. I took a photo of the number with my cracked cell phone, a prepaid thing I'd bought at a convenience store, and called when I got back to my room. "Amarillo Donor Registry. This is Susan speaking." "Hi," I said. "I saw your flyer about bone marrow donation." "Wonderful. We're always looking for donors. Have you donated before?" "No, this would be my first time." "Great. I'll need to ask you some health screening questions, and then we can schedule you for a tissue typing test. The compensation for registration is $50, and if you match with a patient and proceed with donation, you'd receive the full amount." She walked me through the questions. Health history, age, medical conditions. I qualified. Of course I did. For all the money I'd lost, I'd kept my health. Small consolation. "Can you come in tomorrow afternoon? We have a slot at 3. I work until 2. Can I come at 2:30? "That's perfect, Mr. Harlan. We'll see you then." The next day, I left work early. My supervisor docked me an hour's pay and walked to the clinic. It was in a small medical plaza, sandwiched between a dentist and a podiatrist. Susan turned out to be a cheerful woman in her 50s with bright red glasses. "Mr. Harlan, thanks for coming in. This will just take a few minutes." She swabbed the inside of my cheek, placed it in a vial, and handed me a $50 bill. "That's it?" I asked. "That's it. We'll process your sample and add you to the registry. If you're ever a match for someone, we'll contact you. Most people never hear from us again, to be honest. The odds of matching are pretty low." "How low?" "For the general population? About 1 in 400 for a sibling, 1 in a million for an unrelated donor. But you never know. You might be someone's miracle." I pocketed the money and left, already forgetting about it. 1 in a million. Those weren't my kind of odds. But 3 hours later, my phone rang. I was heating up a can of soup on the hot plate, listening to the highway traffic through my thin walls. "Hello? Mr. Harlan?" It was Susan, but her voice sounded different, strained, excited. "Yeah?" "Sir, I need you to come back to the clinic. Right away, if possible." My stomach dropped. "Is something wrong? Did I fail the screening?" No, nothing like that. It's just, sir, we ran your preliminary test and this doesn't happen. I've been doing this for 15 years and I've never seen this." "Seen what?" "You're a match." I sat down on the edge of my mattress. "Already? You just took the sample 3 hours ago." I know. We weren't even supposed to process it until tomorrow, but we had a rush request come in yesterday. A critical patient, very high priority. They're running emergency screens on all new registrants. Your markers came up. So I'm a match? You're more than a match, Mr. Harlan. Your tissue type is extraordinarily rare. HLA typing has multiple markers, and you've matched on all of them. Our lab director had us run it twice because she couldn't believe it. You're a 10 out of 10 match, and your specific combination of markers, we're calling it a 1 in 180 million profile. I couldn't process what she was saying. What does that mean? It means you might be the only person in the world who can save this patient's life. And Mr. Harlan, there's something else. This isn't a typical registry case. The patient is private pay, high priority medical. They're offering substantial compensation for an immediate donation. How substantial? There was a pause. I can't discuss specific numbers over the phone, but please come in as soon as possible. There are people here who need to speak with you. I looked around my shabby room, at the can of soup cooling on the hot plate, at the pile of bills on the floor I couldn't pay. I'll be there in 20 minutes. I walked. I didn't have money for a cab or a car anymore. The October evening was cool, and my jacket wasn't quite warm enough. My mother had bought me this jacket 15 years ago. It was one of the few things Emily's family hadn't been able to take in the divorce. Everything else, the watches, the art, the furniture, even photos of my children, had been claimed as marital assets or simply disappeared. When I arrived at the clinic, there were 3 cars in the parking lot that definitely hadn't been there earlier. One was a black Mercedes, one was a BMW. The third was a Range Rover with medical plates. Susan met me at the door, her eyes wide. Mr. Harlan, thank you for coming so quickly. They're waiting in the conference room. They? The medical team from Texas General in Dallas. Dallas. Of course it was Dallas. She led me to a small conference room where 3 people sat, 2 doctors in expensive-looking suits and a woman with an iPad who looked like an attorney. Mr. Harlan, the older doctor said, standing to shake my hand. I'm Dr. Reeves, and this is Dr. Kim and Ms. Patterson. Thank you for coming on such short notice. Susan said I'm a match for someone? An extraordinary match, Dr. Kim said. She was younger, sharp-eyed. Your HLA markers are incredibly rare. The patient we represent has been searching for a compatible donor for 8 months. He's tried multiple registries internationally. You're his first and only match. Who is he? The attorney, Ms. Patterson, cleared her throat. The patient's identity is confidential. What I can tell you is that this is a private arrangement outside the normal registry protocol. The patient is willing to compensate you directly for your donation. How much? Dr. Reeves glanced at Ms. Patterson, who nodded. $12 million. The room tilted. I sat down hard in the nearest chair. Excuse me? $12 million, Ms. Patterson repeated. $5 million upfront upon agreement, $7 million upon successful transplant and initial recovery period. All medical expenses covered, of course. Private facility, best care available. I couldn't breathe. $12 million. More than half of what I'd lost. Enough to get my life back. Enough to fight for my children. Why so much? I managed to ask. Dr. Reeves leaned forward. Mr. Harlan, the patient is dying. Acute myeloid leukemia, extremely aggressive. Without a bone marrow transplant in the next few weeks, he won't survive until Christmas. We've exhausted all other options. You're not just a match. You're his only chance. What's involved? Dr. Kim pulled out a tablet and showed me images. Bone marrow donation is relatively straightforward. We'd bring you to our facility in Dallas, run comprehensive health screening to ensure you're fit for donation, then perform the extraction. It's done under anesthesia. You'd be sore for a few days afterward, but full recovery is typically 2 to 4 weeks. And I'd be saving this person's life? Yes. I thought about Douglas Whitmore's words. Genetic dead end, worthless. I thought about my kids, who I hadn't seen in 3 months. I thought about the room above the gas station, the plasma donations, the night shifts loading boxes. I need to think about it. Ms. Patterson's eyes widened. Mr. Harlan, I'm not sure you understand the urgency. I understand perfectly, I said. But this is my body, and $12 million is a lot of money. I need 24 hours. Dr. Reeves nodded slowly. That's fair. But please understand, every day matters. We're quite literally in a race against time. They gave me their cards and a thick folder of information. As I was leaving, Susan caught my arm. Richard, she said quietly, I don't know what's in those contracts, but $12 million? People don't offer that kind of money unless they're desperate, unless they've run out of options. I know. So whatever you're thinking about, think fast. I walked back to my room in a daze. $12 million. It was impossible, surreal. 24 hours ago, I'd been selling my plasma for grocery money. Now someone was offering me a fortune. But who? Who in Texas had that kind of money and was desperate enough to pay it? Who had the connections to mobilize a medical team within hours? I pulled out the business cards. Texas General Hospital, Dallas. One of the best medical facilities in the Southwest. The doctor's credentials were impeccable. I opened my laptop, a 7-year-old machine that barely functioned, and searched for major medical cases in Dallas. Rich patients with leukemia. Oil executives with cancer. And then I saw it. A small article from 3 weeks ago in the Dallas Business Journal. Energy magnate Douglas Whitmore steps down from board amid health concerns. My blood went cold. I searched for more. Found another article. Whitmore Industries CEO takes medical leave. Then another. Sources say Whitmore battling serious illness. Douglas Whitmore, my ex-father-in-law. The man who'd called me a genetic dead end. The man who'd destroyed my life, taken my children, stripped me of everything I'd built. He was dying, and my bone marrow was his only hope. The irony was so perfect it felt like fiction, like some cosmic joke. I laughed until I cried. Then I just cried. I didn't sleep that night. I paced my small room, turning it over in my mind. The universe had handed me the ultimate revenge. All I had to do was nothing. Say no. Walk away. Let nature take its course. Douglas Whitmore would die, and I'd have the satisfaction of knowing I could have saved him and chose not to. But $12 million. My children, my life back. At dawn, I made my decision. I called Dr. Reeves at 7 a.m. Mr. Harlan? I'll do it. I'll donate. That's wonderful news. We'll have a car pick you up today. Can you be ready by noon? Yes, but I have one condition. What's that? I want to know who the patient is. No confidentiality clause. I want the truth. There was a long pause. Mr. Harlan, the patient specifically requested. The patient doesn't have a choice, I said. Those are my terms. Tell them. Another pause. Hold on. I waited, watching the sun rise over the gas station's parking lot. 3 minutes passed. 5. Mr. Harlan? Dr. Reeves was back. The patient has agreed. A car will pick you up at noon. The car was the Mercedes from yesterday. The driver didn't speak. We drove south through Texas, the landscape changing from flat plains to rolling hills. I watched it all through tinted windows, feeling disconnected from reality. We arrived at Texas General at 4 p.m. It wasn't the main hospital. It was a private wing, the kind where celebrities and politicians went for treatment, the kind where a room probably cost more per night than most people made in a month. Dr. Reeves met me at the entrance. Welcome, Mr. Harlan. We'll get you checked in and start the pre-donation screening. If everything looks good, we can proceed tomorrow morning. I want to see him first. The patient? Mr. Harlan, that's not really... Those were my terms. I want to see Douglas Whitmore before I agree to anything. Dr. Reeves's face confirmed what I already knew. He sighed. 5th floor, room 512. But please, Mr. Harlan, he's very weak. He's been through multiple rounds of chemotherapy and... I know how leukemia works, doctor. I took the elevator alone. The 5th floor was quiet, hushed, expensive art on the walls, everything designed to make you forget this was a place where people came to die. Room 512 had 2 guards outside, private security. They looked at me questioningly. Richard Harlan, I said. I'm the donor. He's expecting me. One of them spoke into a radio, then nodded. Go ahead. I pushed open the door. The room was massive, more like a hotel suite than a hospital room, but all the luxury in the world couldn't hide what was at its center. Douglas Whitmore, shrunken and yellow, connected to machines that beeped and hummed. He looked 90 years old. He was 63. His eyes were closed. I thought he might be sleeping, but then he spoke. Richard. His voice was a whisper. They told me you were the match. I didn't believe it. What are the odds? 1 in 180 million, apparently. He managed a weak laugh that turned into a cough. The universe has a sense of humor. That's one word for it. You came to gloat, to see me like this. I don't blame you. I pulled a chair close to his bed. I came to see if you're really dying. Stage 4, acute myeloid leukemia. Doesn't respond to chemotherapy. Without a transplant, I have 3 weeks. Maybe 4. He opened his eyes, and they were the same cold blue I remembered, but duller now. So yes, Richard, I'm really dying. Good, I said. He smiled slightly. You always were honest. Emily hated that about you. Said you didn't know how to play the game. The game where you destroy people for sport? The game where winners win and losers lose. You lost, Richard. I made sure of it. You did, I agreed. You took everything from me. My business, my money, my children. You called me a genetic dead end. I remember. And now here we are. Your genetic line depends on my genetic dead end. How does that feel, Douglas? He closed his eyes again. Like justice, probably, if you believe in that sort of thing. I'm not sure what I believe anymore. Are you going to do it? The donation? Why should I? $12 million. Your life back. A chance to see your kids again. I can say no, watch you die, and have the satisfaction of knowing I could have saved you. You could, he agreed. Is that what you want? I looked at this man who'd haunted my nightmares for months, who'd systematically destroyed everything I loved. He looked so small now, so human. It would be easy to hate him. It would be easier to walk away. What about Emily and the kids? I asked. Do they know? Emily knows I'm sick. The kids don't. They're too young. Jake is 12, Sophie is 10. They're not too young. Emily wanted to protect them. Emily wanted to protect herself. What happens to them when you die? Who takes over Whitmore Industries? Emily, eventually. My son already manages day-to-day operations. The kids will be fine. Will they? You told me I'm a genetic dead end. What does that make them? He opened his eyes again. That was cruel. I was angry. You were destroying me. Yes. Why? What did I ever do to you? He was quiet for a long time. The machines beeped. Somewhere down the hall, a phone rang. You were happy, he finally said. You built something from nothing, married my daughter, had beautiful children. You were happy, and you didn't need my money or my name to be happy. Do you know how rare that is? Do you know how threatening? So you had to take it away. I had to prove that happiness without power is fragile, that your kind of success was an illusion. And now? Now I'm dying, and the only person who can save me is the man I tried to erase. So maybe I was wrong. Maybe your happiness was real, and mine was the illusion. I stood up. I need to think. Richard, his voice stopped me at the door. Whatever you decide, tell Jake and Sophie their grandfather loved them. Even if you hate me, don't let them hate themselves. I left without answering. Dr. Reeves found me in the hallway. Mr. Harlan, are you ready to begin the screening? Not yet. I need to make a phone call. Of course. There's a private lounge. I need to make it outside, alone. I found a small courtyard behind the hospital. It was getting dark, the sky purple and orange. I pulled out my cracked phone and dialed a number I'd called every day for 3 months, even though it never answered. It rang 4 times, then went to voicemail. Hi, this is Emily. Leave a message. Emily, it's Richard. I know you don't take my calls, but I need you to listen. Your father is dying, and I'm the only match for a bone marrow transplant. The doctors found me. They're offering $12 million. I haven't decided what to do yet, but before I decide, I need to talk to Jake and Sophie. 5 minutes on the phone. That's all I'm asking. If you don't call me back in the next 2 hours, I'm walking away and letting him die. Your choice. I hung up and sat on a bench. Watched the sky darken. Watched the stars come out. My phone rang 90 minutes later. I was still sitting on that bench, the stars now bright overhead, the courtyard lit only by the glow from hospital windows above me. Richard. Emily's voice, tight with anger and fear and something else. Maybe desperation. Emily. You son of a bitch. The words came out harsh, clipped. You're blackmailing me with my father's life? No, I said calmly, though my heart was racing. I'm asking to speak to my children. Something I should have been able to do all along. Something you and your father stole from me. They don't want to talk to you. Her voice cracked slightly. Did you ask them, or did you decide for them? Did you tell them their father loves them and thinks about them every day, or did you let them believe I abandoned them? Silence on the other end. The kind of silence that speaks louder than words. 5 minutes, Emily. That's all I want. 5 minutes with my son. And then you'll do it? You'll save him? The desperation was clear now. Her father was dying, and she was willing to do anything, even let me talk to my own children, to save him. I haven't decided yet, but I need to hear their voices before I choose. God, you really are heartless, aren't you? He was right about you. The accusation stung, but I pushed through it. Says the woman who helped her father destroy me. Says the woman who's kept my children from me for 3 months. Put Jake on the phone, Emily. More silence. I could hear her breathing, could picture her in some pristine room of the Whitmore mansion, probably sitting at the antique desk in the study, the one that had been in her family for 4 generations. Then a young voice, cautious and uncertain. "Dad?" My eyes burned instantly. God, his voice. I'd forgotten how young he sounded, how much like me he was starting to sound as he hit puberty. "Hey, buddy. How are you?" I'm okay." A pause. "Are you okay?" "Mom says you're busy with work, but I don't know what I thought." "I'm okay, Jake. I've been trying to call you. Did you get any of my messages?" Another pause. Longer this time. Mom said it was better if we didn't talk for a while, that you needed space to figure things out. Space. That's what she told them. Not that she'd forbidden me from calling, not that her father had destroyed my life, just that I needed space. "I never needed space from you," I said, my voice thick. "Not for a second. I've thought about you and Sophie every single day, every single moment." "Really?" "Really. I miss you so much, buddy. How's school? How's basketball?" School's fine. I made the basketball team." His voice lifted with pride. That's amazing. Starting lineup?" "Not yet. I'm still coming off the bench. But coach says maybe next season if I keep working hard. I've been practicing my three-pointer like you taught me." My throat tightened. I'd spent hours in our driveway teaching him to shoot, adjusting his form, encouraging him through missed shots. "That's great, Jake. Keep at it. You're going to be amazing." "Thanks, Dad." He paused. "I wish you could come watch my games." "Me too, more than anything." "Mom says you're going to help Grandpa, that he's really sick?" "He is, and I'm trying to figure out what to do about that." "Why wouldn't you help him?" The question was innocent, genuinely confused. He didn't know. Emily hadn't told him what his grandfather had done, how their entire family had conspired to erase me. "It's complicated, buddy." "But he's family. You always said family helps family." The irony wasn't lost on me. Sometimes family hurts family too. "Did Grandpa hurt you?" His voice dropped to almost a whisper. I closed my eyes. How much should I tell him? How much could a 12-year-old understand? "Yeah, he did. Pretty badly." "I'm sorry, Dad." He sounded like he might cry. "But can you still help him, even though he hurt you?" "I don't know, Jake. What do you think I should do?" "I think—" He took a breath. "I think you should do the right thing, even when it's hard. That's what you always told me. Remember when Billy Thompson punched me at school and I wanted to punch him back, and you said being the bigger person sometimes means walking away even when you want to fight?" I remembered. God, I remembered. It had been a whole thing. Billy had been bullying Jake for weeks, and one day Jake had finally had enough. I'd convinced him that responding with violence would just make things worse, that being strong meant not needing to prove it. I remember. "This is like that, right? Grandpa hurt you, and now you could hurt him back by not helping. But that's not who you are, Dad. You're the bigger person. You always have been." Tears were streaming down my face now. My 12-year-old son, using my own lessons against me, or for me, depending on how you looked at it. "You're pretty smart, you know that? I got it from you." He paused, then added quietly, "I love you, Dad. I miss you so much it hurts sometimes." "I love you too, Jake. So much. More than you'll ever know until you have kids of your own." "When will I see you again?" "Soon, buddy. Real soon. I promise. I'm working on it." "Okay." He sounded like he wanted to believe me, but wasn't quite sure he could. "Dad? Will you really help Grandpa?" I wiped my eyes with the back of my hand. Yeah, I think I will." "Because it's the right thing?" "Because you reminded me who I am." "Can I talk to Sophie?" "She's asleep. Mom says she can call you tomorrow. Maybe?" The maybe hurt more than anything. Maybe, not definitely. Not, "Of course you can talk to your daughter." Just maybe. "Okay, tell her I love her. Tell her I think about her every single night." "I will, Dad." "Yeah? Thank you for being you, for being the kind of dad who does the right thing." When we hung up, I sat in the dark courtyard for another hour, my phone clutched in my hand like a lifeline. Do the right thing, even when it's hard. My own words thrown back at me by my 12-year-old son. I went back inside and found Dr. Reeves. "I'll do it. Let's start the screening." The next 36 hours were a blur of tests. Blood work, imaging, physical examinations, psychological evaluation. They wanted to make sure I was healthy enough to donate, that there were no hidden conditions that could complicate the procedure. Everything came back perfect. Ironically, losing everything had been good for my health. No more business dinners, no more stress eating, no more sitting in an office all day. Manual labor and poverty had made me lean and strong. "You're in remarkable shape for 51, Dr. Kim told me. We can proceed tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. "How long is the procedure?" "About 2 hours for the extraction. You'll be under general anesthesia. When you wake up, you'll be sore. Bone marrow extraction involves inserting needles into your hip bones, but we'll manage your pain, and most donors feel significantly better within a week." "And him?" "Mr. Whitmore will receive the transplant immediately after extraction. If his body accepts it, we should see signs of engraftment within 2 to 3 weeks. And if it doesn't?" She didn't answer. She didn't need to. That evening, Ms. Patterson brought me the contracts. $5 million would be wired to an account of my choosing upon signing. $7 million upon successful engraftment and Mr. Whitmore's discharge from the hospital. "What if he doesn't make it?" I asked. "You still receive the initial $5 million. The remaining $7 million is contingent on survival and recovery." I read every word of the 70-page contract. Then I signed it. At 5 a.m., I was prepped for surgery. They gave me a gown, started an IV, rolled me into a pre-op area. Dr. Reeves appeared, already in surgical scrubs. "Ready, Mr. Harlan?" "As I'll ever be." "We're taking good care of you. Any questions?" "Just one. Does he know it's happening today?" "Yes. He asked me to give you something." Dr. Reeves handed me a sealed envelope, my name on the front in shaky handwriting. "Read it after, if you want, or don't. Your choice." The anesthesiologist appeared. "Mr. Harlan, we're going to start sedation now. Count backward from 10. 10, 9, 8. I woke up in pain. Deep, aching pain in my hips and lower back. A nurse was checking my vitals. "Welcome back, Mr. Harlan. The procedure went perfectly. How do you feel?" "Like someone drilled holes in my bones," she smiled. "That's essentially what we did. I'll get you some pain medication." "How long was I out?" 3 hours total. It's just past 9 a.m. "And the transplant?" "Already done. Mr. Whitmore received your marrow at 7:30. Now we wait." I spent the next 2 days in the private wing, recovering. The pain was manageable with medication, but standing and walking were difficult. They wanted to monitor me for complications, though Dr. Kim said everything looked good. On the 3rd day, as I was preparing to leave, Dr. Reeves visited. "Mr. Harlan, I wanted to update you. Mr. Whitmore's body is accepting the transplant. His white blood cell counts are rising. It's too early to call it a success, but these are very positive signs." "That's good. He'd like to see you before you go, if you're willing." I thought about it. "Okay." They wheeled me to his room. I still couldn't walk well. The guards were still outside, but they nodded respectfully this time. Douglas Whitmore looked marginally better. Some color had returned to his face. He was sitting up slightly, watching the news on a flat-screen TV. "Richard," he said when I entered. "You came." "Dr. Reeves said you wanted to see me." "I did. I wanted to say thank you." "You're welcome. You didn't have to do it." "No, I didn't. Why did you?" "My son told me to do the right thing even when it's hard. I was apparently a better father than I thought." He smiled slightly. "You were always a good father. I was wrong about that." "You were wrong about a lot of things." "I was." He gestured to the chair. "Sit, please, if you can." I lowered myself carefully into the chair, wincing. "I read your letter," I lied. I hadn't. The envelope was still sealed in my bag. "Then you know." "Know what?" He studied me, then gave that weak laugh again. "You didn't read it. You're terrible at lying, Richard. You always were." "Fine. I didn't read it." "What does it say?" "It says that I'm sorry, that I was cruel and vindictive and everything you probably think I am, that I destroyed your life because I was afraid of what you represented." "And what was that?" "Proof that my power didn't matter, that my empire didn't matter. You built something real, something based on actual work and merit. Your happiness with Emily wasn't because of my money or connections. It was real, and I couldn't stand it. So you took it away." "So I took it away," he agreed. "And now you've saved my life. Why?" "I told you, my son—" "No, the real reason." I thought about it, about the plasma donations and the night shifts, about Jake's voice on the phone, about the genetic dead-end comment that had haunted me for months. "Because you were wrong," I finally said. "You called me a genetic dead end, but my genetics just saved your life. My blood, my cells, are keeping you alive. Your daughter and grandchildren have my genetics in them. I'm not a dead end. I'm the only reason your line continues." He closed his eyes. "You're right." "I know." "What will you do now? With the money? Get my life back. Get my kids back. Emily won't make it easy. Emily doesn't have a choice anymore. I have resources now. I can fight. You'll use my money to fight my daughter. Ironic, isn't it? He opened his eyes and looked at me. Really looked at me. I'll help you. What? I'll help you get custody. Shared custody, at least. Emily's been unreasonable, and I've enabled it. That was wrong. Why would you do that? Because you're right. Because you saved my life when you had every reason to let me die. Because Jake and Sophie deserve to know their father. He paused. And because I don't want to die, knowing the last thing I did was destroy a good man for no reason. I didn't trust him. How could I? But his eyes were sincere, and he looked so tired. We'll see, I said. Fair enough. He closed his eyes again. Thank you, Richard. Truly. I left without responding. What was there to say? Ms. Patterson met me in the hallway with a tablet. Mr. Harlan, if you'll confirm this account number, we'll wire the first installment. I gave her my new bank information. I'd opened an account at a real bank, not the check-cashing place I'd been using. $5 million would hit it within 24 hours. The remaining $7 million will be dispersed in 6 weeks, assuming Mr. Whitmore's recovery continues as expected. And if it doesn't, then we'll reassess. But Dr. Reeves is optimistic. They discharged me that afternoon. A car drove me back to Amarillo, back to my room above the gas station. Jack was sweeping the parking lot when I arrived. You're back, he said. Thought maybe you'd taken off. Had some business in Dallas. Must have been good business. You look different. How so? He shrugged. Less broken, maybe. I smiled. Maybe so. I went up to my room and sat on the edge of my mattress, pulled out my phone and checked my bank account. $5 million, right there in black and white. Then I pulled out the envelope Douglas had written. Inside was a single page, handwritten in shaky script. Richard, if you're reading this, it means you went through with the donation. Thank you. I don't deserve your mercy, but I'm grateful for it. I was wrong about you, wrong about everything. You built something real, and I destroyed it because I was afraid of what it meant. That power and money and legacy don't matter as much as I've spent my life believing they do. I can't undo what I've done. Can't give you back the years I took, but I can tell you this. You were never a genetic dead end. You're one of the best men I've ever met, and I was too proud to admit it. Your children love you. Emily knows that, even if she won't say it. Don't give up on them, and don't give up on yourself. Whatever happens, thank you for giving me a chance to make things right. Douglas. I read it 3 times, then folded it carefully and put it back in the envelope. The next morning I called a lawyer. A good one, the kind I could finally afford. Mr. Harlan, she said when I explained my situation, with your new resources, we can absolutely fight for joint custody. It won't be easy, but it's doable. How long? 6 months, maybe more. Depends on the judge and Mrs. Whitmore's cooperation. Her father has offered to help. Douglas Whitmore, that changes things. If he testifies on your behalf, we might be looking at 3 months. Let's do it. File whatever you need to file. Over the next 6 weeks, I rebuilt my life piece by piece. I moved out of the room above the gas station into a small apartment. Nothing fancy, but it had a bedroom and a real kitchen. I bought a car, I bought new clothes, I visited a therapist twice a week. Turned out, losing everything and selling your blood to survive does a number on your mental health. Who knew? And I waited for updates on Douglas Whitmore. They came regularly from Dr. Reeves. The engraftment was successful. His white blood cell counts were normal. The cancer was in remission. Against all odds, it had worked. On the day the final $7 million hit my account, I got a call from Emily. Richard? Emily, my father told me what you did, what he offered to do. Okay. I don't want to fight you anymore. I sat down, surprised. You don't? No, I don't. You were a good husband, a good father. I let my family poison me against you, and I'm sorry. Emily, let me finish. I want shared custody, 50-50. The kids have been miserable without you. I've been miserable. This whole thing has been a nightmare, and I don't want to keep living in it. What changed? My father almost died, and you saved him, even after everything he did to you. Jake told me what you said, about doing the right thing even when it's hard. That's who you are, Richard. And I forgot that. I'm sorry. I closed my eyes. I'm sorry, too. I should have fought harder for us. We both should have. Can we try to do better? For the kids? Yeah, we can try. We worked out the details over the next week. 50-50 custody, no more supervised visits. I'd see Jake and Sophie every other week, holidays split evenly. It wasn't perfect, but it was more than I'd dared hope for 3 months ago. The first weekend they came to stay with me, Sophie ran into my arms crying. Jake tried to be cool about it, but ended up crying too. We sat on my couch, a decent couch, not a great one, but mine, and watched movies and ate pizza and just existed together. "Dad?" Sophie asked at bedtime. "Are you going to disappear again?" "Never," I promised. "I'm here now. I'm not going anywhere." 3 months later, I got another call from Dr. Reeves. "Mr. Harlan, I wanted to give you an update. Mr. Whitmore has been declared cancer-free, full remission. It's extraordinary, really. Your donation saved his life. I'm glad it worked out. He'd like to see you, and your children, if you're willing." I thought about it. "I'll ask them." Jake and Sophie were curious about meeting their grandfather again. They remembered him from before, the distant but generous man who gave expensive presents and lived in a mansion. "Is he different now?" Sophie asked. "I think so. I hope so." We drove to Dallas on a Saturday. Douglas Whitmore was home now, in the massive estate I remembered from family gatherings years ago. He met us at the door, thinner than he'd been, but healthy, alive. "Jake, Sophie." He knelt down, which clearly hurt him, and hugged them both. "I've missed you." "Hi, Grandpa," Sophie said shyly. "You look different," Jake observed. "I've been sick, but I'm better now. Thanks to your dad." They looked at me. I nodded. "Your father saved my life," Douglas continued. "Did you know that?" "Dad's a bone marrow donor," Jake said proudly. He told us about it. "He's more than that. He's a good man, better than I ever gave him credit for." We stayed for dinner. Emily was there too, and it was strange and awkward and surprisingly okay. We weren't a family anymore, not in the old way, but maybe we were building something new. As we were leaving, Douglas pulled me aside. "Richard, I've been thinking about your business, the logistics company." "What about it?" "It was stolen from you, undervalued, forced sale. That wasn't right?" "No, it wasn't. I'd like to help you start again. Not the same company, something new. Your vision, your control. I'll provide seed funding and connections, but it's your company. What do you say?" I looked at him, at this man who'd destroyed me and whom I'd saved, at this strange, complicated second chance we'd both been given. "I'd say that sounds interesting. Let me think about it." "Take your time." On the drive home, Jake asked, "Dad, are you and Grandpa friends now?" "I don't know if I'd call us friends, but we're something. We're figuring it out." "That's good," Sophie said sleepily from the back seat. "I like it when people figure things out." 6 months after the donation, I stood in front of a modest office building in Houston with a new sign, Harlan Logistics Group. It wasn't as big as my first company, didn't have the same resources or reach, but it was mine, built from the ground up with clean money and clear conscience. Douglas had been true to his word. He'd provided funding and opened doors, but he'd stayed out of the operations. This was my vision, my work. Jake and Sophie were with me for the grand opening. Emily came too, and even Douglas, still looking thinner but healthy. "How does it feel?" Emily asked. "Starting over?" "Terrifying," I admitted, "but good, really good." "I'm proud of you, Richard. I should have said that more when we were married." "We both made mistakes." "Yeah, but you made fewer of them." Douglas gave a short speech at the ribbon cutting about second chances and the importance of recognizing good people when you meet them, about how his son-in-law had saved his life and taught him what really mattered. When he finished, people applauded, but he looked at me and I saw something I'd never seen before. Respect. Real, genuine respect. That night, after Jake and Sophie were asleep in their room at my new house, not a mansion, but a real house with a yard and bedrooms for each of them, I sat on the back porch with a beer. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Saw the article about your new company. Proud of you. Stay genetic. Douglas." I laughed. Then I typed back, "Thanks. Stay alive. Richard." 1 year after I'd walked into that plasma donation center, I stood in the same spot. The building looked the same. The flyer was still on the bulletin board. Bone marrow donors needed. Susan saw me through the window and came out. "Richard, oh my God, look at you." "Hey, Susan." I saw the articles, the new company, everything. I can't believe it. Neither can I sometimes. "So what brings you back here?" I pulled out an envelope. Inside was a check for $50,000. "I want to donate to the registry, help other people find matches, make it easier for people like me to give someone a second chance." Her eyes filled with tears. "Richard, this is incredible." It's the least I can do. You changed my life. No, you changed your own life. I just took a cheek swab. Sometimes that's all it takes. I left the clinic and drove home, where Jake and Sophie were waiting to watch a movie. Emily had dropped them off an hour ago. We'd worked out a good rhythm, not perfect, but functional. Respectful. As I pulled into the driveway, I thought about everything that had happened. About falling so far I'd sold my blood to eat. About the impossible coincidence that saved my ex-father-in-law's life. About rebuilding from absolute zero. Douglas Whitmore had called me a genetic dead end. But my genetics had saved him. My cells were keeping him alive. My DNA was the only reason his legacy continued. I wasn't a dead end. I was a second chance. Not just for him, for all of us. The universe has a strange sense of humor. But sometimes, if you're very lucky, it also has a sense of justice. I walked inside, where my kids were arguing about what movie to watch. "Dad," Sophie called, "tell Jake we're watching Moana." "No way," Jake protested. "We watched that last week." I smiled. "How about we vote? Democracy in action." "Fine," Jake grumbled. "But I'm voting for Avengers." "You always vote for Avengers." I sat between them on the couch, my kids on either side, and thought, This is what matters. Not the money, not the revenge, not the poetic justice. We voted. Moana won, 2-1. Jake pretended to be upset, but was singing along within 10 minutes. And I sat there, my kids close, my life rebuilt, and thought about how far I'd fallen and how far I'd climbed back. From a genetic dead end to the man who saved a dynasty. From nothing to something. From broken to whole. Outside, the Texas sky turned orange and purple. Inside, my children laughed. And somewhere in Dallas, Douglas Whitmore was alive because of me, learning slowly what I'd always known. That power means nothing if you have no one to share it with. Life is strange. Justice is stranger. But second chances, those are the strangest and most precious of all. And I'd been given one. Not because I deserved it, but because a plasma donation clinic had a flyer, a lab tech ran a test, and the universe decided that maybe, just maybe, it was time for things to balance out. "Dad, you're not watching," Sophie complained. "Sorry, baby. Just thinking." "About what?" "About how lucky I am." "You're weird," Jake said. "Probably," I agreed, "but you're stuck with me." "Good," Sophie said, leaning against my shoulder. "We like you anyway." And that, more than the money or the business or the satisfaction of saving the man who'd tried to destroy me, was everything. The screen glowed in the darkening room. My kids laughed at a joke I'd missed, and I smiled because I was home. Not the home I'd had before, not the mansion or the life of luxury, but home nonetheless. And that was enough. More than enough. That was everything.